name is Dr. Anna O'Sullivan, and we are going to do a deep dive into an amazing substance called probiotics. Many of you already know what this is, but many of you don't know really what they are and why all of us need it, from babies to seniors. So we're going to get right to it. So firstly, let's do Probiotics 101. Firstly, what are these? So probiotics are actually bacteria. When we think of bacteria, most people think of harmful bacteria. But in this case, you need to remember there's good bacteria and bad bacteria. And probiotics, by the word pro, means it's good. Biotics are living organisms, and in this case, we're referring to bacteria. And probiotics are actually one of the main reasons why we're still alive. It's actually a huge part of our immune system. And strangely enough, because you can't see them, most people don't know they exist, but probiotics in our bodies outnumber our cells by 10 to 1, which means we have about 4 to 5 trillion cells in our body. That means we have between 40 to 50 trillion probiotics either on our bodies or inside our bodies. So if you actually had a special like a screening where you can actually see the bacteria, you will see yourself just teeming with them all over the place. So this is why it's critical that we don't kill them, because they are our friend. And so probiotics have been known to be the forgotten organ. Again, because nobody could see it. So nobody knew they existed until things like microscopes, etc., were developed, in the 1800s. And they are everywhere in and around our bodies. Same with all the living organisms like cats and dogs and horses. They all have these probiotics, and they're different organisms, different strains for different species. So horses have different probiotics. That's good for them. Cows, etc. So we're going to deep dive into the human probiotics. And so as you can see, as I said, if you could actually see all of these organisms, they're everywhere. They're all over your skin, your face, your hair, in your digestive tract, actually, even in every part of your body, they're in your system. So what is the number one function of probiotics? This is the most important function of probiotics. They have a lot of different functions, but this is the key. You need to understand that probiotics are 80% of our immune system. 80%. And nobody knew about this until just a few hundred years ago because of the advent of microscopes, etc. But 80%. So what probiotics are the exterior soldiers. So if you think about, let's say an army, you have different types of soldiers. You have the foot soldiers, then you have like think more of the medieval soldiers. It's let's say if you're a Game of Thrones fan, or if you're into the knights, etc. The foot soldiers are actually the probiotics, and then the knights are the immune cells inside your bloodstream. So think of the foot soldiers are guarding your castle outside. When you look at a castle, there's certain guarding things that will keep invaders out. You have a moat around it. You have a very strong, there's only one door, a huge one, a draw door that will shut tight. There's a moat around it, and there's soldiers outside the grounds, so that when the tower person, says, oh, there's some, there's a invading army, it's the foot soldiers outside of the castle that does the job first. But if they lose, then the invading army will be able to smash into the main door. And now it's the job of your white blood cells. Those are the knights that are actually inside the castle to try to fight these invaders. And a lot of times, if they come inside, it's a pretty tough fight, and you're likely to actually succumb to the invasion, compared to if you can stop them from actually getting inside your castle. That's a good analogy if you think of it that way. So our probiotics are actually outside of our bodies. They're all on our skin. They protect our skin from invasion of the harmful bacteria or viruses, and they're inside our digestive system. So if you open up your mouth and if you open your bottom end, that's actually the outside. If you eat, drink, etc., those substances have all kinds of fungus, mold, bacteria, viruses you're actually ingesting. And as they're being ingested, the probiotics are aligning the edges of your digestive tract from your mouth right down is actually working to fight the bad ones, to try to kill the bad ones, the funguses, the bacteria, the bad bacteria, and the yeast. And so the more of these probiotics that we have, the healthier we will be, because there'll be less of them actually invading right into our bloodstream. So what else does probiotics do? Another major function probiotics do is that they help with our digestion. There's a ton of probiotics in our gut, and especially in our lower bowels, from about your small intestine to your large intestine, but most of the probiotics are in the large intestine, and they help regulate our digestion. They helps to actually eat our fiber. The fiber from our food that we can't digest is actually food for the probiotics and helps to break it down. They actually help decrease inflammation in our bodies. They actually reduce gas and bloating in our bodies. They decrease, obviously, the harmful bacteria. So the more of the good bacteria you have, the less room there is for the harmful bacteria to grow. That's what we call sort of crowding out. You're crowding out the bad stuff because there's no room for the bad ones. And they digest the fibers, and they also actually make vitamins like biotin and vitamin K, really important vitamins, as well as actually digestive enzymes. So it's very important that we have lots of these probiotics in our system, especially in our large intestine. And the probiotics die off. They're live living organisms, so they're going to die. This is what, and when they fight a pathogen, a bad bacteria or fungus, etc., during the fight, they die. So we have to continually help replenish the probiotics. And this is why we need to take this on a consistent basis to keep ourselves healthy. So some more actually less known functions of probiotics is it helps decrease our stress, which is interesting because you think, how does that work? Well, I'm going to go through that a little bit later. It helps elevate our mood. How does that work? That's, I think, how can these bacteria elevate our mood? How does it help with sleep? How does it decrease acne? And how does it help control blood sugar? And how does it help with actually weight loss? So I'm going to go through some of these benefits a little bit later. But these are functions or benefits of probiotics a lot of people don't realize that they're there. So let's just see who actually needs to take probiotics. Now, everyone should be taking probiotics for overall general health, but especially people who are suffering from these type of, or not suffering from, but who has gone through these situations. So number one person that needs to take probiotics right away are anybody that are on medication, especially antibiotics. The word antibiotics tells it all. Anti means killing. So antibiotics kill bacteria. And this is the medical way of, quote, treating an infection, is they give you something that will kill the bacteria. But the problem is these antibiotics don't know what to kill. It kills everything. And unfortunately, our probiotics, the good bacteria are very, very weak. And the harmful bacteria are very, very strong. And so you end up killing all of the foot soldiers. It's like, putting napalm, a bomb, where all your soldiers are because a few bad critters are among our soldiers. And so you end up killing all the good ones, and then hopefully you will kill the bad ones, but some of them still survive. So that's a huge problem with the massive overuse of antibiotics. Most people, if you've taken an antibiotic, after you finish the antibiotics, it takes almost 2 years for your gut bacteria to get back to normal without help, external help. So that's a lot. And the statistics are, if you've been on antibiotics, your immune system is depressed 80% for at least 2 weeks, which means you're more likely to get sick after you've been on antibiotics than if you've never been on them. So other medications that you're on, actually, people don't know this, but medications like anti-inflammatories, diabetic meds, they actually slow down the growth of our good bacteria, or will actually even kill some of them. So it's really important. If you're on medication, it's critical that you take probiotics and more than what's recommended, because you can't overdose on probiotics. People who have actually mental issues, anxiety, depression, this is what I talked about. It changes, it can help with your moods, autism, bipolar disorders, people with addictions. All the latest research indicates that there's actually a direct link between the bacteria in your gut and the brain. It's called the gut-brain axis, and those bacteria will actually talk to the brain. It will send certain chemicals that will go straight to the brain, and it can actually be good or it can be very bad. The bad bacteria can actually really help prevent people with addictions to get better, especially with sugar addictions. The bad organisms like yeast, for instance, they will actually trigger the cravings for sugar, and it's that gut-brain axis. So it's really, really important that our gut has a good amount of the good bacteria that's going to actually help with your depression and anxiety, and even autism. There's a good relationship between the wrong type of bacteria in the gut and autistic behavior. Another huge problem that can be helped is tremendous with probiotics. Anybody suffering from irritable bowel syndrome. It could be people who have the diarrhea type or people who have the constipation type. Either way, it helps to regulate and normalize the bowel function. So irritable bowel is a huge problem. It's basically an epidemic in North America. And well, when I had my clinic and treating people with functional issues, irritable bowel is one of the top 3 problems that people had. Digestive disorders, and medically it's very difficult to treat. And the very first thing that they need to start taking are probiotics, so that they can actually start regulating the bowel movements. And you have to remember that your stool, more than I believe it's 60 to 80% of your stool is actually all bacteria. And so if the person does not have the proper bacteria in their gut, that's where a huge amount of the diarrhea happens, is that they don't have the way to actually form proper stool, because the bacteria actually will populate and increase if you feed them properly. So we're going to talk about the feeding of these bacteria, because remember, they're live organisms. So remember that most of your stool is actually the bacteria in your gut. And the brown color is actually one of the functions that the bacteria has. It actually breaks down things like cholesterol. And that's why it's yellow or brown. So everything, there's a reason for it. Other digestive disorders, people with Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, all kinds of digestive disorders, the very first treatment way, natural treatment, is to get on probiotics. And these people need much more than somebody that may take it as a preventative or as a health measure. So they most likely, those people will need between probably 2 or 3 times more, or even a higher dosage while they're suffering from these problems. People with allergies, you have to remember, allergies it all stems actually from a gut that's not working properly. If you have allergies, it means that you've had some invasion of that particular substance, whether it's dust, mold, usually mold, proteins have actually invaded into your bloodstream, and therefore your immune cells will actually react to these foreign bodies and create antibodies. And then the next time that substance gets into your bloodstream, then you end up with allergic reactions or allergy symptoms. And so your gut is critically important for actually reducing problems like allergies. You need to have a good integrity of your gut. And there's a condition called leaky gut syndrome. And that is what happens, that tends to cause all of these problems. Again, it starts with the gut. The gut integrity is critical. That is like your big, huge door to your castle. And if that has holes in it, then it allows all kinds of stuff into your bloodstream. And then your body spends all its time reacting to these invaders. And allergies are the immune system overworking, working like crazy, trying to deal with all of these invasions. And people with skin conditions. One of the worst thing that's happened over the last probably 10, 20, 30 years is this not fascination, but focus on sanitizing. We have like we have antibacterial soaps, we have antibacterial body wash, antibacterial hand soaps, antibacterial everything. What's happening is that our skin is teeming with good bacteria. And whenever you take a shower with an antibacterial soap or body wash, you're killing them all off. And the skin needs that bacteria to protect us. So what you're actually doing is you're killing off all the good protection. So that's why all of these sanitizers, etc. Okay, hands all right, but for your body, never ever use anything with any kind of antibacterial component to either skincare or body care. And also to skin integrity has to do with also proper gut. Skin and the gut is connected, has an intimate connection. But I can't get into all of that here or else we'll be here too long. Autoimmune conditions. Again, this has to do with having proper immune system. If the probiotics helps 80%, it's 80% of your immune system, it's going to help your body become less reactive. And people with autoimmune conditions are people that have an overactive immune system. So if you have lots of probiotics, it tends to give your immune system a little bit of rest, so it doesn't have to react so much. People with depressed immune systems. Again, just like when I said with people who used antibiotics, they are much, much more susceptible to getting another infection because they have killed off 80% of the immune system. So it's a matter of making sure your foot soldiers, you have lots of them that are protecting your doors and your windows from invaders to coming in. And weight gain. This is very interesting. A lot of people don't know about the relationship between weight gain and improper probiotics, or people with who's had antibiotic therapies. A lot of the research now they're doing with respect to children, childhood obesity, they're seeing a lot of correlation between children who's had antibiotic treatments while they were younger and children who end up obese as they get older. Because as you kill off the bacteria, it changes the whole brain axis, changes the way the digestive system works. And if your digestive system is not working correctly, then the way your body responds to the food you eat is a problem. And I have one person, and I tell the story all the time, and some of you may have actually met her. She was 33. She all of a sudden, she started to gain weight for no particular reason. And then within a year, she'd gained over 100 pounds. And within 3 years, she was already almost actually over 300 pounds. And by taking our Hemohem, which is an incredible product to balance out her hormones, but she also started taking the probiotics, she lost 64 pounds in 3 months. Hemohem, probiotics, and a digestive enzyme. That's the only thing she did. So 2 out of actually all 3 work on the digestive system, because Hemohem will help regulate the hormones, but it also regulates the function of the digestive system. The probiotics, as we discussed, it's imperative. It's so important for the digestive system, and the enzymes, which helps to make sure that you digest all the foods that you ingest, so you actually can get all the nutrients. Plus, Any food you do not digest are toxic because they will actually ferment and they will rot in your large intestine, especially proteins and fats. So one thing, keep in mind, if you have a very smelly stool, that's a #1 indicator that you are not digesting certain foods, especially your fats and your proteins. Carbohydrates are very easy to digest, but your fats and proteins, you must have lipase to digest, to break down fats, and you must have protease and certain digestive acids, digestive enzymes to break down proteins. So that is critical with respect to proper digestion, is proper enzymes. So let's go into why the Atomy Probiotics. Now, as a healthcare professional for over 30 plus years, I have used countless different supplements and countless different probiotics. And I am so impressed with the Atomy Probiotics because for the average person, you know, the average person has no clue what form or what brand you should take. And probiotics are actually fairly expensive. Even the professional brands that are higher in quality, they are going to be much more expensive, obviously, than the ones you buy at Costco or at the drugstore. But the Atomy probiotics are such high quality and has functions, has benefits that the others don't have, but it's very, very affordably priced. So the average person can take this on a regular basis. So firstly, one of the things you need to understand is the packaging. What Atomy does is that when it says it has 3 billion probiotics, it doesn't mean it has 3 billion probiotics at the start. What Atomy does is it guarantees that you have 3 billion coliform units of these organisms at expiry. All right, when you check the expiry date, it will guarantee that you have at least 3 billion because the probiotics are going to degrade over time. They actually put 20 billion per package, and as time goes on, they will guarantee that there's at least 3 billion. So don't get fooled by this because other packages will say, 10 billion, something. Well, that's not necessarily what you're going to get by the time by the time this expires. So that's one thing with respect to the probiotics. Another thing, I'm going to just go here, is that the Atomy Probiotics are 12 different strains. That's very unusual. When you see any other type of probiotics, most of them have maybe 3 or 4 strains, but Atomy has 12 different strains because different probiotics have different functions and they're different strengths. And so that is really, really important that you get a variety of different probiotics. And they add in the Atomy Probiotics, prebiotics. I'm going to go over that a little bit later. Prebiotics are actually the food for these bacteria, the probiotics. You can take as many or lots of probiotics, but if you don't feed them, they starve and they die off a lot quicker and they don't replicate. And that's what you want. You want lots of them in your system helping you. And Atomy's probiotics are very, very affordable. So that's a huge plus because most people would like to take probiotics, but budget is a big concern. And so that's important. And this is very, very important actually for most people. It's very tasty and it's very convenient. So I'm just going to go here. All right. So these are the actual different strains of probiotics. As you can see, bifidobacterium brevi lowers levels of harmful bacteria. This one settles in the digestive tract. This Lactobacillus casei is actually acid and heat tolerant. Lactobacillus plantarum increases lactic acid, prevents fermentation of kimchi. Now, there's lots of ways to get probiotics in your diet. For instance, kimchi, anything that's fermented, that means it's via bacteria, and they usually use good bacteria. Like kimchi is a very, very good one that a lot of people, especially the Korean community, because that's their national dish. There's sauerkraut, there's yogurt, but yogurt is a very poor source of probiotics because the probiotics have been used to make the yogurt. So by the time you eat the yogurt, there's really hardly going to be any probiotics. But even if there's only 1 unit, they can label it as a probiotic. But I would not recommend yogurt as your source of probiotics. So 12 different strains, and different ones set on different parts of the digestive tract. But one of the things that's very important is Lactobacillus. If you take a look here, there's a lot of Lactobacillus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's tons of Lactobacillus bacteria, and that's because between the stomach and the small intestine, there's different strains of Lactobacilli, and there's also a lot of harmful bacteria that exist simultaneously. And in the case of healthy children, more than 90% of the bacteria in the excreta, meaning in their stools, are bifidobacteria. What this indicates, depending on your age, you have different ratios of different kinds of bacteria. And so harmful intestinal bacteria increases with age. This is really important. The older you get, the more you have to take probiotics. Children are much more resilient, and so it's very important that everyone takes probiotics as a precaution, but as you get older, it's critical. And what happens is that it helps preserve your intestinal integrity, and it prevents the buildup of the harmful ones, which are going to cause health issues. And the Lactobacillus is critical because what it does is that it changes the environment of the intestine to make it very acidic. And what that means, a lactic acid in what the Lactobacillus creates is lactic acid. And what it does is it actually restricts the growth of the harmful bacteria, and they can't endure that acidic environment. But the good bacteria can grow in that. The Lactobacillus can grow easily in the acidic environment. So this is another way to keep the bad ones under control. And this here's the sub-ingredients is really, really important because, and this is what a lot of the other supplements don't have, is the sub-ingredients, especially what we call the prebiotics, are critical for keeping the bacteria alive. And so if you look at here, kimchi lactobacillus extract, indigestible maltodextrin, fructooligosaccharides, galactooligosaccharides, these are all food for the bacteria. They eat this stuff. Fructooligosaccharides and galactooligosaccharides are actually very expensive prebiotics, and it's in here. And it also has all kinds of oriental medicine in there for better health. It also has papain, which is actually a digestive enzyme that helps to break down proteins. Malic acid, which is a natural additive, makes things tastier. Xylitol, again, makes it tasty, but it helps. It's a good type of sugar. Orange extract, lemon extract, orange scent powder, grape glucose, and it's got lactose. Lactose is the sugar of milk. So those who are lactose intolerant, you have to be a little bit careful because they may or may not be able to take this. So that's the only caveat with our probiotic. What are prebiotics? As I said, prebiotics are the food for these beneficial microbes, and it positively impacts the gut environment for all overall health. So if you take a look here, these are the prebiotics, and what the prebiotics are, the little Pac-Man thing here, those are the probiotics. They actually eat them, and then the probiotics eat the harmful bacteria or fights them. And so the probiotics are the friendly beneficial bacteria here, and the prebiotics are the foods. So if you give food at the same time, then those probiotics will stay healthier longer, and they're able to also replicate. So who can take probiotics? Well, they're safe for everyone to take with a few exceptions. So initially, one of the things is that probiotics are organisms, bacteria that's supposed to be in our system. But initially, when there's a bad ratio of bad bacteria and good bacteria, as soon as you start taking them, the person may get some discomfort. They may have a lot of gas. They may have bloating. That's actually a sign of the good bacteria coming in and actually starting to kill off the bad ones. Okay, so it's more of a temporary situation. So if they notice that, tell them to just back off, or just maybe take one every other day or every 3 days until the bloating and the gas discomfort calms down. So tell them not to just stop, and because they think, you know, that's a side effect, a bad side effect. It's actually a good effect, but it's uncomfortable. So just have them take maybe even a quarter of the package for a few days and see how they do. Stop until the gas or the discomfort stops, and then start again a little bit at a time. Just like I recommend with the MOM, a little bit at a time. Okay, so they can get used to it. And the lactose intolerant people, they might not be able to take this, because if they can't, the lactose is there to actually feed the lactobacilli. And so this is something that they'll have to test. Take a little bit and see how they do. If they're fine, they can just slowly increase the dose, because actually these probiotics will help them digest lactose. But the lactose intolerant people most likely don't take any lactose because they get the stomach discomfort. So just kind of wait and see what happens. How do you take this? Well, people suffering from various health conditions that have actual demonstrable health issues, or they're taking medications, or have been taking, or have had antibiotics, they should be taking at least 3 sachets a day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, or if they eat maybe only 2 meals a day, they can take 2 at one meal and one at the other. It's best to take the probiotics for most people during their meal, because the food actually will help protect them. But this probiotics actually has a coating so that it will protect them from the really strong stomach acids, so that they will be still alive by the time they get to the small intestine. So you can still take them on an empty stomach. It's not an issue, but meals tend to help you remember to take them. Maintenance dose is 1 sachet per day with your largest meal. If you're healthy and you're taking it for more maintenance preventative, then 1 a day would be fine. Children under 6, maybe half a sachet per day, because it has the other prebiotics and the other substances. So half is fine, but if they've been on antibiotics, etc., you have to write 2, 3 a day for them. Okay, under 6.